this is Lavinia at Cross Keys Crafts. I would like to show you another gel plate technique today. I will link to a few videos I did recently with my gel plate after I had attended one of Jo Rice's Lavinia Stamps gel plate workshops, which were absolutely great. And she just inspired me with one of her latest videos on another technique that I sort of had forgotten about after the workshop, which is, I'll just show you my sample, which actually is to stamp with your ink onto the gel plate. What I showed in a recent video is to stamp on the background afterwards by creating a mask. We'll do that today as well, but I want to show you different techniques on the gel plate before you actually take the print. What I'm not going to do, which I did in the sample, was I used some water specks, and this actually bled outside of the circle here. So I'm not doing this with the actual one I'm doing here today. How this came about as well was Jo Rice's video enticed me to buy a circle gel plate, and I looked on the sites, looked at Lavinia, I looked at Amazon, and then I thought, I don't actually need to buy a round gel plate. I've got the rectangular one here. I've got an oval one, which I used in my last video, which is really nice. But what I actually did with this one here is I created a mask, and this one was my round mask. And I thought for the video now I'm going to use this heart-shaped mask, which is just a piece of copy paper, a scrap paper, and I die cut this heart from it. This is a Sizzix heart from a nesting die set, and that's all I need to do. So you can basically create any shape on your gel plate as long as the shape is not bigger than your actual gel plate underneath. And because the gel plate is sticky, this actually sticks on quite nicely. I've had it on it for a while now. This is why it actually seeped a bit through, so you can actually see where it has stuck down. All you need to do with the bigger shapes is make sure this is nicely stuck down like you would with a normal mask or stencil. My theme today, as you could see from my sample, is lavender. I wanted to create some sort of lavender feels. So all I'm using today is my lavender stamp from Lavinia. I'm going to link to all products below. And for the background, you're going to use this Harmony Spectrum Noir crushed velvet ink and the Lavinia Elements Merlot. These are the only water reactive inks that I've got that would work for the background. So that's why I'm sticking to these two colours. If you wanted to, you could create like a sky with a blue colour, but I wanted to stick to this purple theme today. And to print on this, in it, I'm using the VersaFine Clear Fantasia and the VersaFine Clear Bluebell. I might afterwards, not on the gel plate itself, but on the print, work with a bit of the black ink, but I'll decide that when I've taken it off. And I also might come in with my little bee stamp, and that I would stamp in black, but again I decide that once I've taken the print. So the other thing you need is a brayer. I'm using my small one today, but you can also use a bigger one, it doesn't really matter. So all I need to do now is to put down ink, and because I want to do it in sort of two areas like this, I'm just turning my gel plate round. So I want to use the Merlot on the top, so I'm inking up my brayer. With these ink pads, I don't like to go directly onto the gel plate because I find they leave a bit of a shape on the gel plate. I find with these square or rectangular ink pads it's not as obvious. So I'm just going to put this on here. I think that's already enough, so taking the excess off here, and then I'm coming in with a crushed velvet. This one is not as dense or as moist as the other one. It's still nice, and you can see I'm going a bit over the middle just to create a bit of a blend. And sometimes I find it doesn't look like you've got a lot of ink on the gel plate, but actually do only notice when you actually take it off the rest that's left on there. So I think this will be quite nice. So the first technique, I have already shown you that in one of my first videos. I'm going to take ink off this now with this stamp, and I'm not going to put any ink on this, on the contrary, and I want to start at the top because this will be the background. I will just set this down. Make sure you don't squash it too hard because you will slip on the surface. So I'm just pressing this down, taking the ink off, and then I press the ink off here, and you can see it actually comes off. So I'm just going to do this all over, and I'm going to do one a little bit of an angle. I don't want to have them all straight. And that will actually create my first layer. So, and it's difficult to see, so you need to remember where you sort of stamped them. Then I want to come in with my purple, sorry, the Fantasia. So I'm now going to stamp directly onto the gel plate, but a bit lower. So I sort of remembered I got the lavender here in the background, that level, so I'm going to stamp at this level again. Don't squash too much. And I'm varying at the heights a little bit here and the angles. This looks a bit watery, but that's okay. I think also different gel plates react differently to the inks. So, but I sort of like this look. The other thing you can do is do some second generation stamping in between. So I shall do this now with my residue here. That'll do me. And now I just want to come in with the bluebell and have a few more stamps in the foreground. So again, I'm going a bit lower and I'm almost going outside of the shape here. I think I will actually have one up here and one up there. So now, before I put this onto my card base, this is just an ordinary, I think it's a 220 GSM cardstock. I need to take the mask off. So I'm just peeling this off. Oh, what I did mention before, make sure you don't have any residue on your gel plate that would then now come off the card. So there are two ways of doing this. Either you put the cardstock onto here, but I left mine on the acetate, so I can actually turn this round and I can see where I'm stamping it. And because, sorry, I've just gone off screen there, because I've got no ink on the top and the bottom, I can actually touch the gel plate there and I can set this down. Now I can press this down. Apologies for the dirty acetate in the back, but I can see now where I need to push it down a little bit to get the shape. And I will leave this for a moment just for the ink to seep into the paper. So, and I'm going to lift the whole thing up with the paper. Just press this down just once again. And now I can take this off. And there is my print. I hope you can see this all right. I've got a bit of a line there really, where I could have blended it a bit nicer in the background, but I really like how the background comes out there. I could have actually gone a bit higher here with the second row of stamps. But this is why I said it's ideal is if you remember where you stamped them. You could actually, I just had the thought there, you could actually mark on your mask how far you want to go with the individual layers. But that's okay by me. I shouldn't have put this down now because I wanted to take actually a second print there, but I'll just do this off now here. It sometimes works nice if you want to cut another mask if you don't have the die. So all that's left for me to do now is to put the mask back on and just set this down. If you're not sure, or if this warps a little bit, I think I just will put a bit of a weight on either side. I could just put this down there. Or I could actually, because I'm only stamping at the bottom, I think rather than putting this back on, I think I will actually put some tape on this on either side. I've got a bit of a stain there, but I'll cut this off anyway. So bear with me whilst I get my tape. So I'm using this Scotch removable tape. For me that works best, and it's got a good price point. So I find this doesn't leave any residue. And what I'm going to do is I've got a piece of scrap paper as well, because I really don't want to stamp over this. But I can just line this up now with the edge there. Obviously when you've got a circle you need to cut yourself a mask or reuse the mask you already have, because that would be too tricky. But this for the heart here, that's ideal actually. So I'm just to be on the safe side, just put another piece of scrap paper at the bottom there. Now all I want to do now is just to stamp a few more of these lavenders on. So, and I'm going to use I thought about using the black before, but I think this will be too harsh. So because this will be a bit more solid and darker than these images that come through stamping on the gel plate, this should be crisp enough. You can always stamp it off a little bit to check. So I think this will be fine. I'm wondering whether I've got a bit of residue on my stamp, because it still gives me these little specks, but I think I actually quite like it. So my aim is just to go a bit higher now and cover these areas a little bit. Yeah, see how dark that is. It's still purple, but it's dark enough. I don't need the black. And I'm doing one more here, going up a bit higher here. Just, if I don't talk in the meantime, it's because I'm thinking. So I'm just contemplating whether I should have a bit more. Tell you what, I'll do a second generation just across here. I don't want to cover too much of the background, but just a little bit. So I mean, Joan Rice always says don't make it like a pizza, but I do like it sort of symmetrical. So yeah, and now I think I'll just add my little bee. I really like the bee in the image, so I'm just contemplating whether I should have it outside of the heart or inside. Yeah, pop it inside. So because I've got this sort of really faded background, I can just sit it in there. It doesn't really cover anything. There we go. And I think, but I'll do this off camera, I will colour this in again with my glitter pens like I did in the other gel plate video that I'm going to link to below. So I will just leave this to dry, peel this off, and then I will mount this onto a card, and then I'll show you the finished card in a moment. So this is this finished card. As you can see, I have coloured in the little bee. I just used these Artistro paint markers. The gold one actually bled a little bit, but I think it's not really that noticeable. So, and I don't have many Lavinia sentiments, so I just used this little stamp d'or. I'm not Welsh, but I live in Wales, so I thought this would be useful to give to somebody. I just stamped this in this direction rather than having a straight. And I mounted this onto some purple cardstock. This is from Dovecraft. I'll link to that below. I'm sure I bought this online. It's not very heavy, it's just 180 GSM, but it's quite good for matting. And I'm also going to show you in a moment how to create a card from this. So yeah, so it's on a almost 6x6 card. This is the one from the works. I used it as a top folding card, created the smaller purple mat, and then cut this out accordingly. So yeah, I think this is really nice. I quite like this. But what I said I'm going to show you another card is because my original sample, I don't want to waste this. I can cut this out with a circle die and make use of this. So I'm just going to show you how I do this. So first of all, I want to create a card base, and this time I want to create a round card. So I've taken one of those A4 sheets. Let me just zoom out a little bit by lifting my camera. Yeah. And on the fold, I'm going to put my die down, but I want to have it a bit on the edge, so I'm not cutting through the fold there. And before I put it through the die cutting machine as well, I will cut this piece off because I can use this for something else. So I'm just putting this into place, and it's up to you how far you want to go off. It really depends on how much of a round shape you want, but you don't want this to be too small just in case it tears. So I will just do it like this, and I like to have my tape on the outside because sometimes tape, even the good one here, can tear the cheaper paper. So I will want to have as little as possible on this piece of cardstock. So I'm just cutting this off and put this through my die cutting machine, and I will also cut this one out here. So a few tips along the way. When you cut your card, make sure you put some scrap paper underneath because you don't really want any imprints from the bottom. I actually have something here which might actually be a little die cut residue on the cutting plate. I need to have a look at that in a moment, but at least I minimized anything that will come up from my bottom plate. You can, if you want to, cut another slither off either at the bottom or the side here, depending on which way you want to open it, if you don't want this to be like a rocking card, but I just leave it round like this. So the second thing I want to show you is I lined my die up, the one I used for my mask, but nevertheless I was left with this wide edge here. But I'm not fussed about this. I can remedy this in a moment, and I also want to work with this anyway because I don't like the way that these splatters are a bit too overwhelming. So I need to do something on the top, and I also want to stamp on this card here as well, which is actually easy because I don't need to create a mask because I cut it out anyway. The other little tip is always put your gel plate back in the packaging because you don't want this to dry out. So seal it properly, put the acetate on either side before you put it away. I used to be really naughty and leave it out, but it's not good. If you want to have this for years and years to come, you put this away properly. So what I'm going to do with this now is, obviously, if you got a smaller nesting die, you could cut this out again, but I only have these two, plus a bigger one from a recent die set I bought. I don't have anything close to this. My other ones are really, really much smaller, and I don't really want to go much smaller and cut too much away. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some more scrap paper. I'm going to get my blending brush out, and I'm going to go round the edges with my dye. Sorry, with my ink, obviously. So I'm using the crushed velvet again, just because I don't have that many inks. So I'm using my brush. I'm dabbing this off a little bit in the lid. I don't want to have too much on it. And starting on the outside, I'm sort of working my way in. And you can see very quickly this white line disappears and it's almost not noticeable. And it gives a very nice effect anyway, almost like three-dimensional. Again, you can use other colours. You could come in with a bit of black soot, you could come in with a blue, or if you wanted to introduce some green. But I wanted to keep these purple because my theme is lavender. So we just zoom in a bit more. as you can see. And also I think the daylight's going now. I need to put my light on in a moment. There we go. So as I said, now I would like to do some stamping at the bottom. So I'm just getting my lavender stamp out again and my Fantasia. And like with the other card, I want to have some lavender plants here that look like they actually are in the foreground. So I don't want to go too high, but I don't want to go too low either. I'm contemplating whether I've got some residue from my cleaning tissues, or whether that is actually the texture on the stamp itself. It might be. I have to check on the packaging. So, as I said, I'm not trying to do too symmetrical, and I think I will go in with some second generation stamping. I could have done that straight away, but this way I know where I want it. I think I will actually go over this again. This is not very dark. Yeah, it's a bit double stamped, but I think that's fine. So I hope you can see this. So now to take the edge of what's happening on the top there, I think I will get my moon masks out and I will create a bit of a focus up here. So bear with me. So I've got my moon mask here. I'm going to set it down. I think I put it on this spot here where there's the biggest blotch. And I'm just using the excess of the ink I've got on the brush. And just starting in the middle, I'm just going around it. And usually I find it doesn't show very much. It might not be enough ink on my brush, but I can see that in a moment. Nope, there's not enough ink on this, so I should quickly ink this up again. It's probably because I've gone all the way around. So starting again, I'm tapping this off a little bit. Again, starting in the middle and working my way out. Hope you can see what I'm doing. Again, you could introduce a different colour. Could even introduce a white ink if you wanted to, but I just keep it in this colour scheme. So there you go. I hope you can see this. I will actually put this back on and I'll just spread it out a bit more to the top. But again, without inking up, I will actually go a bit bolder there on the top, just to blend it a bit more into the background. Because I really want to take a bit away from these big blotches. There we go, yeah, I like that. So my idea now was, again, to sort of cover this a bit and get this into the background. I want to stamp my sentiment on here. This is the Welsh for happy birthday. I attempt to say it. Let me show you this here. Penbrith Happies. I hope I said this correctly. So I think I'm going to stamp this first. I want to stamp it on the side here because my thought is I would like to put this little butterfly almost into the middle of this circle, but I think I will stamp it right over the blotch here. So if this overlaps a bit with the circle, that'll be fine. I'm trying to keep this straight so I will not lose the horizontal line. And there it is. I'm using my VersaFine, the black onyx again. So, lining this up. think I will go a bit to the top because I don't want to cut off the top of these plants, and also I've got a little line here, so ideally I would cover that as well. So as always, leave it a bit to sink into the paper, and then you can get a very crisp print. Also, because these are not cheap silicone, these are polymer, they won't wobble, they won't squash, so you can give that quite a bit of pressure. And now I've got my little butterfly here. I'm going to link to all the stamps below, and I'm just printing this, so we're stamping this onto the circle here. There we go. I think this time I will not colour it in. I'll tell you what I will do. I will get my wing of Stella out. I think I could do just with a little hint of sparkle, but I don't want to colour it in with the metallic paints. And actually, because I've got water reactive inks, the ink in the background actually blends into the butterfly with the wing of Stella. I hope you can see that. It's a lovely little sparkle. So I could, if I wanted to, put more embellishments on there, but I think I like the simplicity of this. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick this on my card base. I don't think I was contemplating whether I should give it a white mat, but I think I'll leave it like this. Contemplating whether I want any stickers. I will probably put some stickers on this. I find the card needs a little something because it's all still a little bit flat. So I think I will quickly get my stickers out and add some here and then show you the finished card. So I've got my clear stickers here, the diamond stickers, but I just decided I do need something white. Because I don't have the frame here, or another die that could frame this thing. I do have my circle die cutter, but I've stuck this down now. Oh, by the way, and I created an inside for the sentiment, which also strengthens the cardstock. But I just remembered I bought this recently. This is a pastel pen by Conte à Paris, and Joe Rice uses these frequently. So I thought I will just use this to go around the card and just to create a frame. So all I'm doing is just going around like this. I know we've just darkened it, but I think this will actually set this off. I might just do this at the top only, and then I'm going to smudge this a little bit, which will set it. And I think, although it is very subtle, it just gives such a different look to the card. So now I can come in with the stickers. I'm just putting a bit on the side on an old acrylic block. I'm just using my fingers to dab these on, and I'm trying to get these on the front ones here, on the front lavenders. It will dry clear anyway, and then just leave the sparkle behind. But I just want this to be on the front here. Already made a bit of a mess. You can use, obviously you can use some sort of applicator, a brush, whichever. But I will just do this. I think I put these on the second generation ones as well. I love stickers. I love anything glitter anyway. So I think it finishes the card very nicely, and I will also, got a bit left over there, I'll just put this on the butterfly here. Try not to get out of the line too much of the lines. There we go. I hope you can see that. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. So I'm just quickly cleaning my fingers. Don't want the stickers to be all over. So this is card number 2, the one that looked a bit like it was meant for the bin, but this is my point. You can always do something with these bases, play around, and yeah, create something. So take the focus off your what you would call mistakes and just put new focus on there, and nobody will ever knew that it wasn't meant to be like this. So, and this obviously is the first card, the one I've already shown you. So yeah, if you like these cards, you might want to give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, I post videos 2 to 3 times a week. You might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I'll see you soon with another video.